Great. What we have here is a picture of the 2014 conference. My first Write the Docs conference, and I'm the only writer in my office, so I frequently feel alone. After I went to this conference, I felt...
I don't know their names if that's up there.
I'm not going to say the word, but it felt really good. After that conference, I wanted to continue the conversation. Let me say a little bit about myself. My name is Mike Jang. I'm a tech writer for a company called FordTruck. We make identity management software. I'm the organizer of the local Write the Docs meetup, started after the 2014 conference, and I talked about starting your own Write the Docs meetup at the 2015 conference. So my talk is on the state of the Write the Docs meetup. And to understand that, we need to go into a little bit of history. The conference has been going since 2013, and after that, we had a couple of meetups, one in New York, one in San Francisco, and a few people joined up. It was without encouragement by the organizers, so that was good. After the 2014 conference, things grew a little bit. I started the meetup in Portland. We grew a bit more. At the 2015 conference, more people wanted to start meetups. I thought it was amazing. We had meetups in Seattle, San Diego, Boulder, Dallas, and even Prague. Blew my mind. The trend continued. We have now have meetups in Boise, Austin, even Managua, Nicaragua, Galway, Ireland, London, and Berlin. And if you want to continue the conversation, I want to run a bit of a demo. What it takes to be an organizer. Demos are always risky in this venue, but what the heck. And I've set up the draft, or what I'm seeing on my screen isn't matching what's up there, so I'm not sure what's... Let's see if this works. Pardon? Oh, okay. There we are. I have a draft for meetup. We're going to be doing Tuesday, June 7th, a couple of weeks from today here in Portland. And let's see if I can get this going. I have it set up for 6 to 8 in a venue. Thank you, New Relic, for co-sponsoring. I have my description. I say, schedule this meetup up now. And if you're a member of the Write the Docs Portland group or want to become a member and join us, please feel free to join our meetup. My gosh, that demo worked. And just one more thing. I can't quite figure out how that works. Let me just say, we're going to have an unconference session on starting your own meetup. So if you run a meetup or want to start one someplace, come join us at 1:50. Thanks very much.
And if you run a meetup, I have stickers for you that I will give to Mike, and you should go to the unconference so you can then distribute them to local people, and we will spread the stickers.
Okay, start the timer. Our next speaker is Kenzie Woodbridge, who I think I originally, oh, no? Yes, that's right. Who I think I originally met in Prague, yeah?
I think we met in Portland.
Okay, well, there you go.
That's okay. Hello, hello. You, my friends, you can write policy. Now, I am talking about not the kind of policy of, no, we always use sentence case for headings. That's not the kind of policy I'm talking about. I'm talking about the really official kind of policy, the kind that governs your organization. So a little bit about me. I'm Kenzie Woodbridge. I work at the British Columbia Institute of Technology in BC. We're a trades and technical college with about 56,000 students a year. And I work in the Web Services Department, and I'm a knowledge base administrator, and that's not what this talk is about. I am also involved with my union. I'm on the board of directors of my union. I've been there for about 2 years, and I'm the policy trustee. So what that means is I'm responsible for looking at our union's policy and making sure that it is up to date, that it is readable, that it governs the things that we want it to govern, that it is understandable, and can actually, its meaning can be discerned just by reading it. So what is policy? Well, policies are very official documents. They are usually passed by a board of governors or a board of directors or the board that runs your organization, and they are meant to guide basic decision making. They are a way of consolidating the conversation that has happened around values and how they are going to be enacted in your organization. So you'll often have policies on things like sexual harassment and donations and all kinds of things like that. There's lots of different policies and lots of ways to do them. Some people separate out policy and procedure. Some people don't. The thing for you to know is how much policy does an organization need? And the answer is just enough, right? Like too much policy, you're trying to control too many things at too granular of a level. You're trying to dictate every little thing. Organizations have good people working for them. Those people need to have a certain amount of autonomy in their role. They need to be guided by policy, not micromanaged by it. But you need just enough to cover a bunch of different things. So, as I say, for enacting those values, like with donations policies and things like that, you need to have that stuff there to sort of give you some guidance, because we're a union, we get asked for donations all the time, and it's good to have a policy to say, okay, we never donate to this kind of organization, we sometimes donate over here, and here's the way that we make that decision. You also have some legal requirements. In BC, we have legal requirements for a workplace safety, harassment, and bullying policy. That's a new thing that we need to have, so we're required to have that. There's all kinds of requirements like that in all sorts of jurisdictions. But the reason I suggest to you that you can write policy is that I have found that having a technical writing background is incredibly helpful. I have that great eye for detail that we all have for, wait, hold on, like, have we said this one way one place and another way another? I can see all the ways to improve it, to make it more readable, to make it more enactable in our day-to-day lives in the organization. And I'm suspecting that you can too. So I would suggest to you that you get involved in your organization's policy, in a nonprofit organization's policy, anything like that, because you can make a real difference and people will really appreciate you being there and you can make things a lot better. So.
It's restarted. Come on, she was walking up the stairs. So next we have Elisa, who, I forget what she's talking about, who's going to be speaking.
Okay, so I guess this is counting against me. Yeah,
it's connected, but it's not talking to it.
So, why?
For AV reasons, I'm afraid.
Oops. Anything showing at all?
No.
Okay. Oh. All right, so, gee, I spent a lot of time on these slides. Okay, so I'm Elisa Sawyer, and I gave a lightning talk last year And my slides did work at a meetup in San Francisco. And I created a whole new set of slides that cover some of the same material, but so that I wasn't repeating myself from San Francisco to here. But I wanted to introduce myself, and I started out as I jumped into technical writing after being a grant proposal writer, and I jumped directly into API and SDK documentation, partly because I didn't know any better, and I wasn't actually supposed to be doing, I wasn't actually supposed to know what I was doing. And what happened was I was surprised that people were surprised that I was successful in documenting a really complicated application programming interface. And so I was motivated then to start explaining to people why I was able to do that. And I had to sort of figure it out myself. I was the youngest daughter of a brilliant PhD physicist who is on the autism spectrum and who grew up in Zurich as part of the world-renowned psychologist Carl Jung's extended family. Now, he married a concert pianist who supported him with her music while he was completing his PhD at Carnegie Tech, until he started his first job at Bell Labs, where he worked with research on quartz crystals, aka silicon. As the youngest daughter, I learned to read at the same time that I learned to talk and walk. And when I was still a toddler, I really loved books with both pictures and words. So I would sneak into the family library and reach up and pull down the biggest picture book that I could find in the library, which was Carl Jung's book, Man and His Symbols. And I would, sit on the floor and leaf through this big book and look at the pictures and read all about symbols, okay? So what happened is that I grew up thinking in metaphor. I liked Carl Jung's book on Man and His Symbols, and I thought a lot about it. And so I grew up thinking about metaphor or thinking in metaphor, not about metaphor. And I really think that that's what helped me be able to jump into API documentation. So I had a whole nice set of slides with universal symbols on them, like the yin yang and the Ouroboros. And I also had a humorous thing with the GRU. And if anybody is familiar with the GRU, which is a fictional monster, excuse me, without my slides, I'm running out of time. Okay, so Jung talks about the shadow and dealing with the shadow. Gosh, without my slides, I am so sorry, guys. Excuse me. Okay, so I see the clock running down, and I don't have enough time without the slides to show you what I wanted to show you. But at any rate, a lot of times as writers, when we see a blank page, our mind goes dark. And we want to confront the shadow within ourselves in order to understand what it is that our customers really need. And if we can exercise thinking in metaphor in different ways, that actually helps us. That's the main point of my presentation. Sorry about the lack of slides.
Computers, they make your life easier in every way. Come down and talk to her in Lola's room because she can go over her slides and talk to her like in more detail. So she'll head down there shortly. Next, we've got Jack Twilley, who's going to undertake the adventure of will it work or won't it work?
Excellent.
Ah, winning.
All right. So first, I'm going to take a picture of you people. Achievement unlocked, lightning talk. My name is Jack Twilley. I'm a graduate student at Oregon State University, and my thesis is on the interaction between fermentation temperature and nutrient addition protocols in the sensory and chemical characteristics of honey wine. We'll get there. As a student at Oregon State, both my undergrad time and my graduate student, I've been working at the open source lab. First as a student developer, and then as a student project manager. This job has taught me a great deal about documentation, mainly in its defects and how it's written, but more often how people perceive it and appreciate it. But before that, I spent about 20 years in the industry, just like many of you. I've managed Novell systems, VMS systems. I've managed mailing lists with millions of people on them. I've designed embedded controllers. I've done a lot of stuff. And I've lost years of my life to bad docs. So you people who make good stuff, praise you and find friends. But your experience with documentation doesn't end once you leave the industry. You can't escape. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. My thesis has a materials and methods section. That's docs. If I don't write it concisely, accurately, and clearly, I've wasted everyone's time and my professor will kill me. The rest of it's technical writing, and I'm learning how to do that, but I've leaned heavily on my experience in creating documentation. But now it's time to hear a little bit about wine and science. As I said before, my research is on fermentation temperature and on nutrient addition. About 25 years ago, I discovered that I could go into a grocery store and buy honey, water, and yeast, and no one would card me. My first few batches were predictably low in quality and inconsistent. But after a lot of practice, I learned that it really does matter that you be consistent and reproducible with your results to make high quality stuff. And the number one thing, according to any amateur professional I've spoken to for the past 25 years, is temperature control. If it's too warm, the yeast work too hard, they make off byproducts and things taste badly. But it goes quick, which is good. If you go too slow, too cold, the yeast gets sad and they die. Deliciously, but they die, and that's bad. So you gotta find a happy medium, and that's what that range represents. And one of my research protocols involves several different treatments of temperature. I also have nutrient additions, because that's also important. Anyone who's ever gotten a bunch of grapes, put them in their fridge, brought them out and said, "Dear God, what is that thing?" You'll discover that yeast and molds grow naturally on fruit. And that's nice if they make alcohol and bad if they kill you. And so honey doesn't have this problem because there's nothing in it but sugar, amino acids, vitamins, well, there's stuff, but it's not the stuff that yeast want. So you have to add things. And I'm studying basically what kind of stuff that you need to add in order to get a consistent high quality product, because when I grow up and have a new career of making this stuff for a living, I don't want to kill people, I want them to like it, stuff. So the next critical question is, how do you measure how well it worked? How do I measure the effects? And there are two approaches. One involves a lab coat, and the other involves a wine glass. Guess which one's a lot easier to get support for? So I've got a GCMS back home that if my professor heard me call it the magical machine one more time, she'll kill me. And that machine will tell me exactly what's in it, exactly what molecules are in there, and that's brilliant and beautiful. But that doesn't tell me what it tastes like. I need to know what you people taste. Oh, I taste the woody arbor of the trees that the honeybees flew by. I taste the asphalt from the parking lot. Whatever, just tell me. I need to know. Any other science, you can say the smell comes from these chemicals, which can be found in this pollen, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of papers written by bad people who can't write very well. Again, praise you, find friends. That will help me, but this is where it matters. So, learn how to write docs, learn how to write research papers, learn how to make mead, and get a different career, and you'll be a happier tech person, I promise you. Thank you.
All right, our last lightning talk is going to be from Laurel Nicholes. And wait till she gets to the top of the stairs. And I hope you weren't offended when I told you to start over. I was just trying to be playful. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. That's going to be a hard act to follow. So, as my slides hopefully boot up, I'm Laurel Nicholes. I'm a knowledge architect for Okta, which is an identity management software in the cloud company. And today we're going to talk about something a little heavy, which is trust issues. How do we get our users' trust in a very scary content world? So, what are our problems to solve? Has our trust been broken? How do we identify the system? And how do we act? So I can tell you, we broke our customers' trust very badly. We migrated our community. We didn't migrate all our content. And I know you're going to be shocked, but people just stopped coming. So that was kind of sad. How did we find out? We needed to look at some data points. So we started using our CSAT data. We looked at our Net Promoter Score and the comments on our Net Promoter Score surveys. We looked at support ticket data to find out how often people closed cases just by emailing an article that already existed in the community and somebody could have self-served if they'd gone there already. Our community participation rates really started to drop. And then the community comments on a variety of surveys, as well as the community itself, weren't very nice. In fact, the worst I think was feast and famine. Sometimes you have good content, and then for months you have nothing. So this was clearly a problem that we wanted to solve. So what does it mean for content to be trustworthy? There's obvious stuff like, it's up to date. It's got an accurate or recent date stamp. It has up-to-date branding. I know branding sounds superficial, but honest to God, if your wrong brand is on your docs, you've broken the trust, they'll never come back. The screenshots are accurate. It's fairly easy to follow. But there's some other things that we've been hearing about during this conference that are important as well. Things like readability, things about engagement. Does the content invite you in? That's harder to quantify, but you can build a scale to try and measure that in your content. Finally, you want to give your content a score. Why do you want to give your content a score? Well, we all know what it's like. We're never having enough resources to keep our current content up to date. The current content is always like the X, right? It's just hanging around. Nobody pays attention to it. We're all chasing after the shiny new thing, trying to keep up with product innovation. So when you score your content and you know what's high trustworthy content, you know where you want to put your efforts and what content to keep fresh and keep in front of your community. So we're actually in the middle of this process. Maybe I'll get to come back next year and tell you how it all went. But what we're doing next is we're socializing those trust scores with our users. We really want them to know that we listened to their concerns. We're taking time to take a look at our content and make sure that we are evaluating it correctly. And then we're creating badges, trusted. This is trusted content, kind of like USDAA content, meat is trusted meat. We're also working with our different development teams to draw them into this process so they self-monitor for their own freshness. I'm one knowledge architect and 500 engineers. There's no way I'm going to be able to keep up with all the content my company produces. The other thing that the trust score tells you is that it tells you what to promote. So content marketing is as important, if not more important, for technical content as it is for sales. And the reason for that is we're all so busy pushing content out to our customers, but we're not convincing them to use it. So it sits there, and we don't know if they're using it or how. You can use things like indexes, social media programs, blogs, and other ways to engage with your customers to make sure that your content actually gets used. So really, the trust issues that I talked about as being so heavy in the beginning aren't that heavy after all. Give it a trust score, do some measurements, and then find out what you've really got. That's it. Thanks.